Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you.
All these busy people worried something's wrong.
Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not buying. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bad as you. I'm looking for you. I'm looking for you. It's you. I'm looking for you. All these busy people, all these busy people, all these busy people.
Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you.
And sometimes crazy rain.
Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you.
All these busy people, all these busy people, all these busy people, all these busy people.
Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you.
And sometimes crazy rain.
Just as bad as you. 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 Just as bad as you.
And sometimes crazy rain.
Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you.
Crazy rain.
Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you.
All these busy people worried something's wrong.
Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you.
Don't
All right. Good morning, everybody. You should now be hearing my audio. Duncan, can I get a little bit of...
You should now be hearing my audio.
Okay. If there are folks in the chat, let me know how that is rolling for everybody. I might be a little soft. It's hard to tell.
I don't want to say anything.
I know what I said. I know what I said as soon as I said it. All right, give me a little bit more there, Duncan.
A little bit more there, Duncan.
Okay, and let's try just a little bit of this, and that might be okay. All right.
See, we know what we're doing.
Occasionally.
Ain't nothing but a thing, Bo.
Yeah,
Nothing but a thing.
Yeah, so if listeners in the chat have any issues, do I still need to be turned up? Am I loud enough now?
I can hear you fine, but I don't know.
Yeah.
In fact, let me.
I think Robert is listening here. So
You sound fine. So I've jumped on and checked the video.
Okay, it does sound good now.
Sounds groovy.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, that's our official marker then. You know what? One other thing we're gonna do, because we got a couple of minutes. It's only 10:29, Duncan. It's flying by the seat of our pants here. Let's see if we can maybe turn down some gamma on me a little bit.
You're just messing with stuff. You give me 2 seconds while you're adjusting stuff.
Okay, yeah. All right. Okay, folks, we'll be right back.
All these busy people worried something's wrong.
Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not buying. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bad as you. I'm looking for you. I'm looking for you. For you. I'm looking for you. All these busy people. All these busy people. All these busy people.
Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you.
And sometimes things you
Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you. Just as bad
all these busy people. All these busy people. All these busy people. All these busy people.
Just as bad as you. Just as bad as you.
And sometimes things you
True
So-
story.
Yeah, no, it's hard to drive your standard dumpster fires.
Garbage can.
Ben Laurie, is
Yeah.
that
Which
is that is
we
it always comes back to that.
always does that in Silence of the Lambs. Although we totally get the Silence of the
Oh
Lambs
my
moment.
God.
Oh, dude. It was the whole season I've been waiting for it and they gave me it.
Yeah.
And it was shit. But we'll get that. We'll get that. Let's not preempt it.
Yeah, all right. Welcome everyone to another
Oh,
episode of Duncan and Bo Come Correct. This time around, of course, is Duncan and Bo Slash Fiction, which is our ongoing look at the slasher television series. And It has been quite a journey. We've reached the penultimate episode, which is episode 7.
It's
And
been 84 years, Bo.
it's, yes, it seems to, it feels like we've been watching Slasher as long as we've been in quarantine.
Yeah, it really, really does feel like. I mean, that's how you make your quarantine miserable. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're on lockdown, you can't do anything that you were used to doing beforehand. Oh, and by the way, the only show you can watch is Slasher.
Yeah, that's some kind of purgatory. Conversely, though, and I think I've probably used this joke before, but if you are diagnosed with a terminal illness, sit yourself down in front of Slasher, because it'll make every minute seem like an eternity. So, there's that. So we're talking about this show. We've got one episode left, which will be 2 weeks from now, of course. And then I think we have discussed taking. Yeah, we're gonna take an episode where we do something that's a little bit different, and not Slasher, and then we will get into the second season of this
Season
thing.
2.
Yeah. But this, all roads lead to Cronenberg. That's what we have to keep reminding ourselves of.
They do.
Is that at the end of this, no matter how bad this journey is, we are going to reach a point where we are going to be served up a tasty helping of David Cronenberg. And I think
tasty 30-second cameo from David Cronenberg.
I swear to Christ, Duncan, if it's just him walking on and being like, I like what you've done with this place. Carry on, and then just turns around and leaves.
I will burn it down.
Yeah, we will. I will blow up Netflix.
Me and you will be on the first fucking flights that we can get post vaccination all the way to Canada, and we're gonna hunt the showrunners down.
Yeah,
Take them out.
we're gonna find Jim Slasher. What did you do? What did you do? Yeah.
Shaking him. Oh, he can't answer because he's been shook so violently. Fucking answer the question.
Right. By the end of it, his brain's just jello. Like,
Yeah.
You fucked it up, Duncan. He'll never be able to answer us now.
Yeah. We're gonna shake him like camera footage taken from a nanny cam of an au pair abusing a child. You've read those stories.
I have, but that was very specific, Duncan.
I was trying to think of things that like you shake someone into a coma, and that was the only thing that came to mind. Which I listen to too much true crime podcasts. I need to stop that.
Yeah, you probably
with humans.
Yeah, if shaking babies is your default at this point. But Duncan, before we get into any more discussion of Slasher, I would like to first thank everybody for joining us, both in the live and pre-recorded versions of the show. It has been a lot of fun and very silly. Somebody, I think it might have been the Ram Man himself who pointed out that in one discussion we shifted very quickly from the importance of the Dutch film movement during the silent era, and followed that quick on the heels of a talk of someone's strange-looking nipples.
It's edutainment.
Yes. So, the point is that we offer a little bit of everything to everybody. And in that way, we're much like Jim Jones of People's Temple. So, sign over your house, I guess.
Yeah, why not? He seems trustworthy.
Yeah, don't I? Despite the slander that came my way via Jamie Sammons.
Was it slander?
It was slanderous. Look, my lawyers are looking into the exact definition, but I'm not at liberty to talk about it right now.
Yeah. Bo went partially Trumpian there, where he was just like, "I'm going to sue," but they might not have done it. Sue.
Look, I know good poetry. I have the best poetry. That is bad poetry. Everyone is saying it. Anyway, what I was saying, Duncan,
What were you saying, Bo?
was that before we get into that, we like to start the show with a look at what we've been watching. One good, one bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very enthusiastic about my good this week, but why don't you start us off? What's tickling your pickle?
Oh dear. I don't know where this conversation's going. It's really obscure hentai, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I was
Yeah.
watching Legend of the Overfiend as it happens, and now I'll never be the same.
Just can't look at an octopus the same way again. I'm trying to think. Because I have the weird thing is I've been watching a ton of stuff, but not all of it is necessarily new stuff. If you know what I mean, I've been kind of working my way through a ton of screeners that I got of newer films for sure, but a lot of mostly older stuff for podcast prep. I'll tell you what I will lean into in terms of the good, because I do think it is a surprisingly good movie that is held up on repeat viewings. And when I watched it first time, I enjoyed it and thought, when I come back to this, I'm gonna look at it from an opinion of being overly critical and probably rubbish in it. But I've just dropped an episode today looking at Horns, the 2013 Alexander Aja adaptation of the Joe Hill novel. And like I remember when that got released at Halloween, and I remember that year it was there couldn't have been a Paranormal Activity or a Saw, because all the ads were about horns. If there's one movie that you see this year, it must be Horns.
Harry Potter has horns.
Harry Potter has the horn. Oh no, I don't want to see that.
The wizard who lived is now the devil who fucks.
Now see, I would watch that in a heartbeat.
Right?
I would watch that. Harry Potter After Dark, give me it. The thing about it was horribly marketed. I mean, we can all say that now. Definitely not a horror movie. It's more a fantasy movie. It has more in common with a kind of weird Brundlefly kind of Guillermo del Toro meets Twilight than it necessarily does with, Satan, or anything like that. But what I found interesting about it is when I watched it at the time, I found it definitely tonally inconsistent, but at the same time, it was just absorbing 2 hours. I didn't feel a second of its runtime, and I enjoyed the story. And it is what it is, and I enjoyed it at the time. I've watched it twice since then. So I watched it once a couple of years ago and thoroughly enjoyed it. Watching it this time with a critical eye for the show that I was doing. I'm still on that train. I think it's a very, very well put together movie, which has good acting. I mean, Daniel Radcliffe isn't the actor that you necessarily would think of for a role like that, but I think he actually does it really well. It's particularly the comedic timing's really good. And when it gets gnarly, it gets kind of gnarly. I think it's just one of those oddities where a studio decided they wanted to make the movie and they wanted to have Harry Potter in it, and then they had not a fucking clue what to do with it, kind of post, or what market they should be aiming at. So horror, obviously. I mean, because Joe Hill, son of Stephen King, so horror.
Right, and it's, the premise itself seems kind of supernatural and fantastic and whatnot.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there's a bit of certainly supernatural and fantastical. I don't necessarily think. I don't think horror, right, at all. But at the same time, though, I can see why it ended up there. Like I say, I just remember that marketing campaign, specifically the window they wanted to release. All those things set up a false equivalency for the viewing experience. But if you remove it from that, the viewing experience is, I think it might be Aja's best shot movie. I think it's cinematography is stunning. I think the score's really good. I think the acting's pretty good. Not from everyone in the movie, but they've got some pretty powerful performances in there. The score, whether it's the Rob OST score or just the soundtrack in general, was bitching. And like I say, it absorbs my time. There's some nods to David Lynch in there, a little bit of Twin Peaks reference. Annie shows up as a waitress in a diner for just one scene. I appreciate that. There's part of me that's like, that's cool as fuck. Well played.
Right.
So
I doff my cap to you, sir.
because you can see it's so transparent, like because it's a, the diner, the outfit, the way it just it's so clearly just a nod to Twin Peaks, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I mean, it's not a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination. It's not Aja's best movie by any stretch of the imagination, but that is a movie that I genuinely thought would fall off with diminishing returns on a second and third watch, and it's held. It's surprisingly held in a way that I would not have given it credit for when I watched it for the first time. So that is my thoughts on Horns, which will be my good this week, I think.
Okay, yeah, I was just making sure that was the good.
Yeah.
It sounded like it.
Bad, so
Yeah. I've never seen Horns.
What years did you draw in the summer series?
2017 and 2019, maybe.
Oh well, you never will then, Bo.
You don't have a lot of faith that it's moving forward. No, it's a movie that I felt like I need to watch. In fact, I feel like I had this conversation with Kate Pollock recently about having not seen the movie Horns.
She's on that episode, so that would make sense.
Synergy, brand synergy. That's what I was bringing to the show once more. So every now and again, Duncan, I like to give you my cold locks for entertainment.
You want
right?
to say I like to give you my cold stew.
I like to give you the cold
nice.
shoulder. I like to give you some Cold Stone Creamery. No,
Like to give you some Stone Cold Steve Austin.
A Stone Cold Stunner. I like
nowhere.
I like to give you a lyrical Stone Cold Stunner.
A Skype stunner out of nowhere. What's he doing?
So, oh my God, a Skype stunner out of nowhere.
That guy's got a family.
Where's the referee?
He's broken in half.
So, anyway, just in time, this show gets real dumb. This is the Stone Cold Lock. Like, when I told you, hey, you really need to see Nomadland. Like, that's a movie that you really need to watch that movie.
You did tell me that, and I will as soon as I can get my hands on it.
Not giving you a hard time about it. I'm just saying, like, that is a movie when you watch it, you're going to be like, God damn, now it's
I still don't think it's officially out here. I need to do some research, but I've got a sneaky suspicion it's not been formally released in the UK.
I can't speak to the film laws of the UK, Duncan.
Oh,
But
see that there, listeners? That's what you call a diversion.
So, over here in the States, where life is
America,
good,
goddammit.
yeah, where everyone is vaccinated now. Over here,
how's that going? By the way,
actually, pretty well. Like it's at this point, kind of. If you want to get a vaccination, you can get on the schedule for one, and we're on track for pretty much by summer. Everyone who wants one will have had one.
We're about the same. We are sitting, I think it's 40% in Scotland.
I don't know that we're that high, but like every day has gotten progressively better. Like the rollout has really turned around, and it's like I'm having my second shot pretty soon, and I couldn't be happier. It's great to think like, oh, we're all come summertime, I'm gonna be able to sit down in the movies again, and that's gonna
I'll be able to go and lick someone's face. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. No, I'm gonna be able to see Dune in IMAX.
I know.
And I was really heartbroken. Like I'm not crazy about the theater experience these days, but I really don't want to watch Dune at home. I've got a big screen and all.
That is a cinema. That is a massive IMAX cinema experience you have to have.
And I'm not. We'll see how things go for Kong. Anyway, but the Stone Cold Stunner, the Skype Stunner, was Nomadland a while back when I was like, you need to see, this is irrefutably a great movie. I don't have to qualify this. Any human being with flesh and blood who watches this movie is going to come away from it thinking that it was a really great film experience. In a similar vein, let me recommend to you another Stone Cold Lock. I finally caught up to that Ted Lasso show. That's the Jason Sudeikis show on Apple Plus, which, so here's how this works, folks. Here's how you stick it to the man, like your old pal Bo, is you get the app, and the Apple Plus app. For a while, you had to have the Apple box, right? Like the streaming device, and you don't have to do that anymore. Now it's just an app. You know, like I watched it on my Xbox. So you download the app and they give you like 7 days for free, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this thing is only like 10 half-hour episodes. I'm willing to take that bet, Apple Plus. And
Apple Plus give you you've just watched the Sadako tape. You get 7 days.
right, yeah. Now that you have started Ted Lasso, you have 7 days before you owe us $4.99. But anyway, so I watched the whole thing over the course of 2 days, and probably would have finished it in one had I not just been exhausted. But it's, man, that show is so good, Duncan. It is. Do you know the premise of this at all?
I do, yeah. So I have Apple Plus, and I've had it since it came out. So I got I think I got my first year for free, and then with my phone contract, because I've got an iPhone, one of my perks is I've still got it for free, and I have watched not one fucking thing on it. I've had it for a year and a half and watched nothing on it, and it's not because there isn't things on there that I want to watch. There is, like, there's that what's his tits? Did a show on there, a horror show.
Oh, M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, apparently it's fucking great. Like, so he's got stuff on there. They're winning loads of awards. There's things that I genuinely think I would want to watch. I have just never sat down and pulled the trigger on even opening the app. So maybe this will be the push that I need, Bo.
And Andrew and Chad also saying Juno Temple, who is on the Ted Lasso program, saying she's an underrated actress. She is a fucking delight. But yeah, yes. So the premise of
Juno Temple and horns.
So the premise of the show is that is it Juno Temple in Ted Lasso? Now it's Juno somebody. Now I'm second guessing myself. At any rate. So Ted Lasso, he's a small time American football coach who has led an underdog team to an unlikely championship. And on the heels of this success, he is then hired by a European football, or soccer here in the States, but football everywhere else. He is hired to coach a football team, not knowing the rules of football, not really equipped to lead a team in this sport by any measure. And it so happens that the team is now owned by a woman whose husband, played by Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Nice.
Yeah, her husband, who's a real rich asshole, fucked around on her and left her, but she got some of his possessions. One of the things she got was this football club that she is intending to drive into the dirt with the hire of Ted Lasso. What she didn't count on, however, is that Ted Lasso is so unrelentingly optimistic and nice, and actually kind of good at being a coach, despite the fact that he doesn't understand the sport that he's coaching, that like the world starts to bend around him to become a better place. And Jason Sudeikis is incredibly funny on the show. It's got a great heart, but I always feel like those super optimistic characters can be kind of one note, where they seem a little dense and like they don't understand that the rest of the world looks at them like they're idiots. And what's kind of nice about this show is that Ted Lasso totally understands how the world sees him. And he actually has a moment where he talks like one of the reasons he has taken this job is because he's having problems in his marriage. And at one point he says, and this is all early on, I'm not spoiling anything for this show, I assure everyone. But he says, like, my wife and I right now are having some difficulty because she finds my optimism tiring. And And so he understands, like, I am making this choice to be this person. And also you see that facade shatter at times, that sometimes he doesn't have the energy to be that guy. And you see him, like, not the real him, because the real him is the optimist, but you see that, like, underneath it there is a guy that does struggle with all the pain in his life and so forth. And it's just such a wonderful show. It's so heartfelt, it's so funny. When you get to the end of the first season, it's a real, like, it captures that sports drama kind of enthusiasm too, where by the end of it you're like, fuck yeah, like, why isn't there a season 2 of this? I want to watch more of this right now. And I can't recommend it enough. I feel like there's by the end of the second episode, there's a nice little reveal about, like, Ted Lasso's kind of scheme to make friends with this woman who owns the team. And it's very sweet, and it's very funny. And there's a great set of, like, recurring characters of, like, the football fans in the local pub who are just constantly pissed at this dude for fucking up their football club. And, like, in the first episode he gets the nickname Wanker, and it just follows him the entire season. Just everybody knows him as Coach Wanker and shit. And it's very funny. And again, I can't recommend it enough. It was a fucking delight. I'm looking forward to, probably in a few more days, I'm going to go back and start watching it again, because I kind of miss those characters already. So anyway.
Nice. Oh, I will. It's on the list now, bro.
Yeah, and especially, like I said, if you do not have, or if you already have the Apple Plus, you're paying for it anyway. Like, Ted Lasso is, I'm sure there's other great stuff on there, but I can safely say, not having seen any of that, Ted Lasso is one of the best things that they have on that service.
Nice.
It's just terrific. One of the best television shows I've seen in years. Anyway, let's talk about bad shit now. We've successfulully filleted a couple of movies. What movie did you see that you were like, no, this is stinky?
Funnily enough, it's another one that I've done for review that'll be coming out tomorrow. A movie that I was convinced I had seen, but clearly hadn't seen. And it's not garbage by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not very good. Christmas Evil.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You're thinking to yourself, Duncan, why are you watching Christmas Evil?
I'm thinking that. Yeah. That did come up.
It's part of the 88 film slasher classic collection, which I'm doing in order for my show. So we've swung around into that one. It's just, I don't like, at what point did we think that because there's an abnormally high amount of Christmas slashers, like, compared to other seasons or other celebrations.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got Halloween, right? That's been done. Tick. We can't do Halloween anymore because Halloween's out there.
And plenty of people have tried, but there's always, no. It's hard to top a movie called Halloween.
Yeah, so and I understand they did other ones, Friday the 13th, which became its own franchise, April Fool's Day, Graduation Day,
April Fool's Day, happy birthday to me.
Yeah, I do not like April Fool's Day, although I do need to watch it again. The end of that movie is so colossally dumb, it just ruins the movie for me. I know why they did it, but it's like, why, like, you've destroyed any value of me ever coming back to watch this again, ever. But yeah, so Christmas Evil is it's just it got me asking the question to myself, what is it about the idea? I understand, like, it's probably the next, I think I'm right with this. It's probably the only other kind of holiday celebration thing we have where people can openly dress up like a fantastical character. It
Outside
was
of like your Easter bunnies and so forth, yes.
yeah, like comic. I don't know why there's not been a Comic Con slasher. That to me seems like it would be so painfully easy to do. And you could
Yeah.
have like loads of different costumes. Why has someone not done that?
Uh,
Hollywood, why have you not done that?
Duncan, you can look forward to my new movie, Comic Carnage,
Like,
coming in late 2021.
just, you know what I mean? That to me seems like that's a fucking obvious thing to do. Why have you not done that? Anyway, yeah, there's just an abnormal amount of. Obviously, it's you can dress up like Santa. Anyone could be Santa. Society just takes into account that people will dress up like Santa around Christmas time. But it's the thing about it is if you're going to have that opportunity to do something along those lines, and I know why you're doing it. I just think you would put more effort into it. And this movie it's not even just paint by numbers, it's just not good. The acting is pretty bad. The dialogue is terrible. Even the kills, nowhere near as gory as I want them to be. You've got the image of Santa, you've got the idea of the season. I want to see red blood everywhere, motherfucker. And they just don't do it. It feels cheap. It feels really, really, really cheap. Even the Santa outfit kind of feels a bit cheap. And yeah, it's just I moan with great ease at this slasher classic collection, not because I dislike slasher movies. It's safe to say of the two of us, I probably like slasher movies more than you do. But I just there was a part of me that always wondered why it was a genre I never deep dived on. So like Giallo, I have ghost movies. I have like the whole director's back catalogs and all the rest. But with slashers, I always knew the big ones and had seen the big movies. The franchisable ones and whatnot, and some of them slightly more obscure. Probably the ones from like the video nasties list, like The Burning. But I'd never went like deep into the American slasher subgenre that boomed for 4 years or whatever. And I'm starting to realize that maybe my brain was protecting me. I was like, no, Duncan, this is not for you, child.
Yeah. Could it be that maybe Bo was right?
Well, I think the thing is, it depends what you're. I've said it before, right? I'm not a tough sell on slashers, right? But slashers are America's answer to the Giallo, right? So,
Yeah. There's a very distinct formula. They're very unsurprising for the most part, but they also, I would argue, tend to lack some of the visual and audio flair of a giallo.
This is the thing. So, like, I fully appreciate and put my cards down on the table that giallos can get pretty tawdry at times. The stories can be absolute hogwash. The reveal of the killer at times completely nonsensical. But I do have that thing where I can at least latch onto something else, whether it's beautiful cinematography, the scenery, the choice of a random American actor who's going to be in this, which I think is a great choice. Or some really strong female characters, the score, the gore, all these things, I can lean into them. And then I turn my attention to slasher movies. And sadly, if I give them the same quantifier of, ridiculous reveal, tawdry storylines and acting and dialogue, I then can't sit there and say, well, it has phenomenal cinematography. The score's absolutely bitching. The practical effects tend to be pretty good. I think that's what my issue is. Like, there's nothing for me. If a movie is subpar, I desperately try and grab onto something to elevate it. It's just the sort of film viewer I am. But when there isn't, I just kind of feel deflated because I feel like I'm sure on paper this seemed like a great idea. And the sad thing about it is there are better Christmas slasher movies.
Give me an example. Like, what would you consider a good Christmas slasher?
Silent Night is
Silent Night, Deadly Night
is a great Christmas because it's just is batshit crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong. I'm just kind of curious where the bar is.
And then there's that one that we watched one recently. Was it Vinegar Syndrome just put out? It's a French one, and it's going to annoy me now. It came out the year before Home Alone, and Home Alone clearly ripped it off. And it is brilliant. And it's about
Yeah,
like a disgruntled serial killer who befriends a kid and then decides to murder him in his house. And it's not really a slasher movie per se. It's more shot kind of soft lens, but it's pretty gnarly. That's a good Christmas horror movie. I think it just works better when you move out into that season, because of the mythology and all the rest. The ones that work better are the ones that lean into, something like a Saint, for example, or Rare Exports, where they actually make Santa, who is this creature that we look upon as being benevolent and good because of all these magical powers he's got, like being able to just materialize inside your house without needing doors or locks, and then just twisting that and making it, well, that's kind of ominous. Like, those are the ones that work better for me. The idea of a guy dressing up like Santa and killing people is okay the first time I've seen it, but why would why am I going to watch it again if the only motivation is that the killer's motivation is slightly different? You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think that's what my issue is, and I've seen so many now that by the time I swung around to watch Christmas Evil, which, like I say, was a movie I almost 100% convinced I'd seen it before, and clearly had not, because about 10 minutes into it, I was like, no, this is completely different than the one I thought was, and that just goes to show you that, like, there's about 4 or 5 that I've seen that have all melded into one. So yeah, that's my thoughts. It's like I say, the score will reflect it. It's not a dog shit movie. It's not this movie must be burned. I'm not putting in a Wicker Man anytime soon. But at the same time, it's just not a very good movie. And I think it's because, and slasher fans, sorry to, like, because we're speaking about slashers as well. I think slasher
it's on brand for us. I'll allow it.
I think slasher fans, just in general, it's see what I was saying about, I gravitate towards the cinematography or the score or the gore or that, random foreign actor that appears in a giallo, which is my hook into it. I think for slasher fans, it's a particular death scene in a slasher, which makes that movie, or it's the killer's look. And I think you will forgo a lot of the nonsense in a movie to have that. Well, that's the one that has that cool supermarket death scene where someone's head's crushed using a trolley. And that becomes how you build. It's how people talk about slasher movies. It's the same way I talk about an Argento movie where I'm like, that Tenebrae, that one shot which guides around the belt. Like, you focus on those things. With slasher movies, I think it always devolves to the one particular kill that's in it and the way the killer looks. And the killer looks like Santa Claus, which I don't need to watch a horror movie to see that. And you know what I mean? And the kills are okay. Like, that's literally, like, I wish I could see, like, you had like some sort of like Santa's sack that was full of razor blades and dumped them in it, or something. Anything that would make me be like, yeah. The motivation for it's just tawdry. Not a terrible movie. I don't think I will watch it again.
Let me give you a little bit of counterpoint from the chat, which Robert was saying, not sure if Christmas Evil is a true slasher, but Maggie Mae Fish did a video kind of breaking it down and praising it. And also, he says, took down Fight Club.
Which might happen next month with Bo.
Which, right. Which I might need to check out myself to sharpen my knives. I don't know. Like, I might watch that tonight.
What, Fight Club?
Yeah.
Watch Christmas Evil.
What? You just... this is like...
When has that ever stopped you? When has that ever stopped you when I've said a movie's bad? When has that ever stopped you going to watch it?
But this doesn't sound like it's bad in the way that I want it to be bad.
Yeah,
this
it's not. And I think that's the thing. See, if it was cheesy bad, I can totally get... That's what Silent Night, Deadly Night is. Like, that's right. It's absurd in parts, which, like the bit with the grandfather just like breaking out his fucking... He's weird. The beginning of that movie is fucking terrifying. Like, if you're a kid and you see that, like, I'm never going to visit Granddad in the home again.
No, right. I mean, nor should you. Grandpa's weird. Stay away from him.
So it's I think yeah, it's not a true slasher. Well, it's coming from the 88 films slasher classic collection, where I think 3 of the movies are actually true slashers in that collection.
Let's
Always go back to remember Children of the Corn 1, 2, and 3 are in their slasher classic collection.
let's stop attacking the fans for 1 second. Duncan,
Attacking anyone.
here's my bad. It's really not bad. This is just a discussion I want to have with you.
Oh, go for it. I know what it is as well. So
Yeah,
that's why I didn't
yeah, I
mention it
think
in my-
you do
That's why I
know.
didn't mention it in my good. I had to think on the fly because I thought this might come up later on. So.
Oh, you played some 3D chess here on the show. Oh, scheming. Talking about movies you want to talk about using psychology. So, yeah, of course I'm talking about Honeydew, which is a movie that I think has some striking imagery, and ultimately I just don't know what the point is.
I'd like
You know what I'm
wrote
saying?
That you were like, I didn't mean that to come out as harsh as it did.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not a harsh question. It's a valid point.
Right. I like getting to the end of it. I'm like, what am I supposed to take away from this movie? What part of the human experience is this illuminating? What am I supposed to be learning from this, other than, I don't know, people out in the woods sometimes ingest fungus and get goofy in the head?
I mean, you could argue that you're basically throwing the same accusation against Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you can make the argument of, hey, this was about the Vietnam War and people being thrown into the grinder and that kind of thing, that there was a political idea behind the movie. And I'm just, like, with Honeydew, it's just so obtuse, I just don't understand what that message is.
I don't think there necessarily is a message.
And yeah, maybe that's my
I
problem.
like it. It's one of the reasons I kind of like it. To me, Honeydew is one of the better movies I've seen this year, specifically because I like how weird it is. It reminds me, like, see the weirder parts of Hereditary, where the score's just unsettling, and you're
Yeah.
like, why is the score doing all the weird plinky stuff and nothing's and why can I hear that popping noise from that kid that's dead? Like, you're just like looking around going, what the fuck is going like that? Like, that's Honeydew from almost start to finish. Like, from the moment it starts, it's clear that it's not going to be your standard horror fare.
This
And it
ain't your
just keeps-
daddy's horror movie.
It's literally as Eat Your Daddy's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because essentially, I didn't know anything about it before I watched it. So, like, when the movie starts to move to, I'm going to use it again, Chainsaw Massacre, like, territory. When you find out what Soylent Green is in this movie, Bo. Like
But I
that
don't. None of that was surprising at all.
it's not surprising, but the way there's a couple of elements that are surprising. Like, what is in the box, Bo? When I saw that, I was like, oh, right, I don't want that. I didn't even know that we were doing that. How did we end up here? What's happening? And I think it's kind of underpinned by really great performances. I think the actors are fucking great in this. Like, the old woman, who apparently has not done many things, is great. She's weird and she shuffles about that house. And it's, like, from the moment you meet her, I'm like, I'm not going in her house, but they go in her house. And there's just it is a weird experience. I wouldn't quite say it's an art house movie, but it certainly felt like it was treading on the toes of kind of art house territory. And it didn't do what I expected it to do. It grossed me out in ways I didn't expect to be grossed out by not doing the things I expected to happen. Like, there's a lingering shot over what could be potentially a lobotomy, which I was 100% sure, because of how weird I felt up to that point, that movie was 100% going to give me. And that movie stretched that scene out and
Right.
then, didn't do what every other horror movie would do. And I kind of appreciate that. The ending, it just made me feel yucky. It's like, totally. But yeah, I think, I don't know, like, to me, horror movies can be about a point, but sometimes horror movies have to be about an experience, and I think this is an experience-based horror movie. It's just designed to unsettle you. And
Yeah.
if you're not unsettled by it, then you're not going to get that nourishment elsewhere. Excuse the pun. You're not going to get it anywhere else in the movie. But if you do like experience-based podcasts or movies, which I mean I do because that's primarily the realm of art house is mostly about experiencing the conversations that come out as you try to interpret why it makes you feel the way it does. That's where I thought that movie shone. Like I say, I think it's one of the better ones just because I can't think of any movie I've seen recently that when it finished I was just like you like grabbing a pillow and screaming at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think probably I wasn't really like freaked out by it or anything. And so by the time we got to the ending and you get to the horribleness of the conclusion, I was just like, oh, okay, so
yeah, and if you're at that point, then that movie hasn't worked.
It just didn't land for me. I do think that the lady, the older woman who's kind of the main antagonist of the film, I do think she's good. I actually didn't think the couple was very good.
See, I liked him. Like the guy's obviously doesn't have to work if you know who he is, Bo. That's Spielberg's son. So,
he's not, Ed Wood terrible or anything, but also there are some moments I'm like, I don't know that he's quite getting there.
There's I don't know. I liked it because it felt like I felt his performance added to the experience. Which it's such a fucking bullshit excuse to say, well, it's an experience horror movie, which is basically what I've said. But I felt it added to it. Like their relationship is like totally tenuous right from the start, and like watching them go, like watching him gorge at that table, watching those old black and white Mickey Mouse cartoons, as a precursor to what is essentially going to be. He's setting himself up for it, Bo. Like all those, I don't know. There's just something very weird about it, and I say, every now and again, I like something that's different, and it felt very different to me this year. And I like that about it. I'm not saying it's the best horror movie I've seen this year, but it's definitely one that's in my top 5. I think.
Yeah, I don't know what that list looks like yet. It's hard for me
it's March,
to.
So I think I've seen 10 horror movies this year, and what I'm basically saying is it's in the midpoint. So if it makes the top 10 at the end of the year, well played. But then it's not been a great year. So.
That's kind of how I feel about it. Is like there are things that I thought were interesting about the movie, and I know that's kind of damning with faint praise, but credit where credit's due, right? Like at the end of the movie, she's watching Betty Boop cartoons instead of the Popeye cartoons you saw at the beginning and things like that. And there's some gender stuff going on, and there also I just wish there had I wish it had landed better for me, or I wish there had been some kind of narrative hook to it that I could have dug into a little bit more. But at any rate, I like I said, I don't think it's the worst thing I ever saw, but I also I don't know that I would watch Honeydew again unless you paid me to.
Because that's his first movie, so it'll be interesting to see where he goes next.
Yeah,
so.
I hopefully to a screenwriter. It's where my fingers are crossed. That's the outcome I'm rooting for. So Duncan, it's time now. And
God.
folks,
speaking of screenwriters,
yeah, and if you would like to ask some questions of Duncan and I, feel free to drop them in the chat right now. I got a couple of questions lined up for us, Duncan. Couple of head scratchers, couple of noodle burners. They call them.
Don't burn your noodles.
Couple of gray pudding stirrers.
What you did right now?
Buying time. Also,
stall.
Stretch, Duncan. Also, the movie that you were trying to think of the French film from 1989 called
Yes.
Deadly Games.
Yeah, if you've never seen that, Bo, watch that movie.
I
Like,
did
seriously,
watch
put
that when it hit Shutter. I actually watched
Yeah.
it, and that is
I-
really enjoyable.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, that's a good time.
It's a poor diabetic, almost in a coma and dying granddad stuffed into a suit of armor to keep him out of harm's way, and he's stuck in it.
It's right. It's suitably bonkers is the thing.
Yeah.
Like it kind of knows how ridiculous it is, and that's kind of what I love about it. Okay, so let's take a couple of questions. Like I said, if you want to, if you're watching this live and want to drop a couple of additional questions in the chat, feel free to. And if they're interesting or good, Duncan and I will answer it. But first, Duncan,
Yes.
Xavier Wes axes us. You guys are forced to make a versus horror film. What 2 or 3 properties would you combine? And I feel like the way the question is phrased, it's something that you and I have to agree on.
Oh no.
So
Never gonna happen. I feel Pinhead has to be in there.
I'm 100% with you. I think it's Hellraiser
And what
versus
else? So it has to be something that's comparable. So I mean, something like Hellraiser versus Wishmaster would make sense to me because of the powers that they're ancient entities. They both come from objects where they're released.
Sure.
So,
I think they
but
would be
I
friends.
think-
I think it would be like the Martha scene from Batman v Superman. Or
Oh, your mother's name is Martha, is she? This is awkward.
you come from a box. I come from a stone. Yes, we have much in common.
Yes, much, yes. This is a bad
Are
idea.
you constantly being fooled back into your box?
Yes, I am. Yes, they worked out if they twisted the box in a certain way, it created a dagger which would send me back to Leviathan.
With me, they always come up with a wish that ends up undoing all the really fun wishes.
Actually, now I want to see that movie. I just want to see like they do those they do those. I've mentioned it before. Like I think it's like Empire Magazine or Total Film or Variety do those. It's about Oscars time. They get like the best directors and all that, sit around and have a conversation. I want that with killers from horror movies. Just like that would. So one of the reasons I really like that a Vicious Fun movie, which I saw at Glasgow Fright Fest this year, which is the premise of that is that a guy stumbles into a self-help group for mass murderers, which is just really, really, really good.
That was there was a movie recently about that.
Is it the same one?
No. It was a couple of years ago. I'm trying to think who was in it. One of the maybe Carrie Russell, somebody like that.
All right. I need to do a bit of research. So yeah, I mean that seems. But I'm thinking like Wishmaster's such a boring character where Pinhead is clearly the better and he would win. So we need to kind of even it up. So Pinhead won.
Ramman saying Hellraiser versus the Tall Man.
That would work.
It would,
Although
but
I still think Pinhead would win relatively easy.
I think you got to go a little more primitive. So I'm saying Hellraiser versus Lake Placid.
Oh no, Hellraiser versus Prophecy. Get some Christopher Walken in there.
Oh, you are 100% right. Yeah.
You've got heaven and hell fighting each other, Bo. You see what I'm saying?
What? You got a box? I'm practically your boss.
Oh no, I have no bosses. I am king of hell. The hell realm is mine. I am Pinhead. Yes. They didn't call me Pinhead to begin with. Originally in the script, I was known as lead Cenobite or Cenobite #1. I had to fight for the title of Pinhead. Yes.
Yeah, I've always had a name. So I win. Automatic. I was in heaven. I got thrown down. Where did you come from? A box.
Totally works. Totally
Yeah.
make that movie, Hollywood. And then you've got you've got a good reason to do things. You've got heaven and hell fighting off against it. That's why Freddy versus Jason on paper seemed like a good idea, but they gave it to the hands of a fucking moron, and what you got was bad. But yeah, like that's what it should have been. So there we go.
Alan McPherson with Jason versus Cube. I'm down with that movie for sure. All right, we've got a Tully sighting. Let me handle some cat business.
The cat disagrees.
Yeah, hang on.
Just a tail moving in the American flag in the back. That's amazing. Your cat's like, you opened the kibble, I came.
Yeah, no, he hears talk of the Prince of Hell, and Tully comes running. It's like tuna for that cat. You opened the can, we came.
I'm just like, I've seen I can see a video feed of us, but it's like 20 seconds behind.
Right.
And what I thought was going to happen was you were going to dump that cat in a bin or something. Oh my goodness. Yeah, let me tell you a little story.
What if I just pulled out a gun and shot it like,
That's the
what was
movie I
that?
want.
And then 20 seconds later, you see the carnage.
Bo versus Tully is the movie I want to see.
I'm telling you, man, that is a constant battle in this house. That cat is privileged. He's the kind of fat ass cat, Duncan, and you may have this with your dogs too, where like if they're laying on the bed and you try to get in, they're real pissed off that you're moving them.
You're moving them.
Yeah, and you're just like, hey, motherfucker, like
I bought and built this bed.
Right. You've got
my
no
bed.
natural skills or anything. You've lived inside your whole life. Like, you would be eaten by coyotes and hawks and shit the second I open the door for you. So don't grumble at me when I shove you over. You ought to be licking my feet, you ungrateful little fuck. But that's a cat for you. That's a cat.
That's a cat. You knew what you were getting when you bought it. So
Right. Oh, well, he was clearly free. You don't buy a cat. Cats happen to you.
So I think what we're saying is if we had our choice to do the movie, it'd be Pinhead versus Prophecy.
I think that's a winner. So
squared.
Look, I feel like that is well answered. Question number 2.
Oh. Follow-up question.
Kind of in the ballpark. Ram Man asks us, do you think the MonsterVerse can continue after Kong versus Godzilla?
Is there plans to continue it with?
I would. You got to think there's some stuff on the drawing board because you can build up to a Destroy All Monsters. Like you could do an Avengers of the. Like you could do. Now that you've done King of the Monsters, you do Skull Island, you do Kong versus Godzilla.
Yep.
Then you do, a couple of standalone properties, Kong versus fucking something else. Godzilla fights some monsters from outer space. Bring them all back together for Destroy All Monsters. Like you could get another 3-4 movies out of this pretty painlessly.
I don't know if they can though. That's the thing. Like, I was surprised. To be honest, I was surprised when they decided to do Kong versus Godzilla, not because or Godzilla versus Kong or whatever we're calling it.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't think, not because I didn't want to see it, but I don't know how profitable those movies actually are. You know what I mean? I think they do make a lot of money, but I don't necessarily think they're easy to shoot and to franchise that way. And like it always seems like that was always the weird jump for me when it's the same, to be honest, with the Universal monsters when they were talking about doing the whole dark universe over there, and I was like, really? Just right? What to me it makes more sense in the comic book world than it does really anywhere else.
Yeah.
Now that Versus thing is kind of similar, even though that more has its roots in horror than anywhere else. But even then, I'm kind of like, I just don't. I don't know. I'm very excited to see it, but I mean, as well as that checking your. I mean, the Earth was pretty much fucked at the end of the last one. Now everything's rebuilt in time for it to get fucked again. and then we're going to have another standalone movie. I think you're right. If they take it to space, which is the death of any franchise, Paul, if they take it to space, then maybe. But
Yeah. For me,
I
it's
don't
all
know.
about the tone. It's got to I've said this already, that from the trailer for Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong, whichever it is, whichever side you land on of that debate, that I felt like it was a little over serious for me,
Yeah.
for being a movie about a giant lizard fighting a giant monkey.
Mm-hmm.
And I want it to be fun, and it might very well be. Like the trailer may be pitching the movie as a big blockbuster, again, kind of a comic book level extravaganza,
Yeah.
as opposed to no, this is, do you want to see two monsters beating the shit out of each other for like an hour and 50 minutes? That's what this movie is.
Yeah.
And that's what they need to do. And if they do that, like, that's what made Kong Skull Island so good, is that it was just a big schlocky monster movie, and it didn't get too highfalutin. Like, you kind of had your crazy John C. Reilly running around in that movie, as well as the military kind of angle and all that shit, and it was fun. And you had like giant bugs eating people and all that stuff. It was a good time, and so that's what I hope for Kong versus Godzilla. And I thought Godzilla King of the Monsters was a slog. That movie ought to have been fun, and it never was.
Yeah, I think it's just, I think it's a tonal thing, to be fair.
Yeah,
I
completely.
think
Like, you can, there is a template where space aliens are dropping monsters are off on Earth all the fucking time, and Godzilla's got to go fight it. Like, those movies exist. That's the Showa run of the Godzilla films. Like, that you can do that, and you could be kind of goofy and silly with it and get away with it. But I don't
do those movies in Western audiences make,
I think there's a way to do it.
Millions. Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's
Yes.
that's where it comes down. I think it's why they try and pitch it more serious and less fun, because they are trying to, whereas like just the Western audiences are just not, your general cinema goer is just not acclimated that way, and don't know the history of those movies, and don't know what they're supposed to be pitched at, so they pitch them too serious. I think that's what you're got. Like the companies that are putting them out put out relatively, like, they don't. And if you want your massive, fun, over the top, just like, this is a Western movie, which is, do not like, you watch Pacific Rim, but Pacific Rim didn't make hundreds of millions of dollars. It barely got a sequel, and that sequel wasn't good.
No, it was not. Although Pacific Rim fucking rocks. That's
the first
that's
Pacific
a great
Rim
movie.
is fucking great.
Yeah.
So, and that's your movie. That's what you're talking about. Like
100%, yes.
Over the top, action based. If you're a Hollywood exec and you're looking at the paperwork tells you that movie didn't do well. So what you're doing is you need to make it more engaging with character stories, and make it more serious about this, and all the stuff that made Independence Day a hugely successful movie, which I think is too serious. So
you should be crying by the end of Kong versus Godzilla. You ought to be shedding tears. I know that's
a life-changing experience. No, it should be fun roller coaster ride. That's what that movie should be.
I should be gorged on popcorn and soda.
Yeah,
being like, holy shit, that was so fun. I can't wait to tell everybody about how much fun I had watching that movie. And that's what I hope. I genuinely do hope that, you do get that Pacific Rim style, like, I'm just gonna bash this fucking monkey in the head with an entire freighter, Yeah, like,
I've always said, it's one of that's one of the most fist pumping scenes in cinema, when the fucking large mecha grabs a freight ship and uses it as a samurai sword in Pacific Rim. I was like, Del Toro gets it.
That and I lost, hand to God, Duncan, I lost the respect of a coworker by talking about how excited I was in the trailer. There's that moment where you see the robot about to punch one of them monsters right in the fucking puss.
Yeah.
And you see jets fire on the elbow to
Yep.
drive the fist harder. And I was like, now that is some shit I want all movies to feature. I want
Yeah.
somebody in charge of like, hey, how do we make this scene 10% cooler?
Yeah. Also, without being a dick to your coworker,
Uh-huh.
also physics would dictate you probably have to do that anyway. In terms of the mass, it wouldn't move
Probably
quick enough
so,
to punch
yeah.
someone without rockets. So not only is it fucking rad, Bo, science. Like, so
Yes, science.
scientifically accurate. So in your face, Bo's coworker.
Yeah. She was having none of it. She was just like, so that's what you get excited about? I'm like, you're goddamn right.
Fucking, it's just like,
Yes, some people have children and whatnot. That ain't for me. I like robots punching monsters in the face.
it's that scene in Eastbound and Down where Kenny Powers, played by Danny McBride, takes a kid out to shoot the shotgun. And he's just going, ah!
Yeah,
Making
absolutely.
these man titties. It's amazing.
Rayman chiming in with hashtag Team Kong. I mean,
I'm Godzilla all the way.
hey,
AG.
I'm in a let them fight place. I don't care who wins.
I believe they call that sitting on the fence, Bo, which isn't comfortable.
I want the real winner to be the viewing public. I want these two to beat the shit out of each other in different biomes for the entire course of the film. It's just like, I want there to be all the character shit. I want is them cutting away of like, holy shit, did you see did you see that big monkey fucking that lizard up for 15 minutes? That was fucking crazy. Where did they go? I don't know. We think they're heading to Antarctica. Cut to Antarctica. Fight number 2. You know,
I'm looking forward to the porn parody, which is Cockzilla versus Dong.
King Dong versus
Yeah. Granted, it's from the way I've described it, it's going to be more on the kind of homosexual bent, but I'd still watch it. So.
Alan also saying that he lost all interest in Star Wars once it went to space. I get it.
Stay on Tatooine. Stay on Tatooine.
Yeah, right. Like, boy, you don't have much of a foothold in that movie. Then, right off the bat, you're in space in that thing.
Yeah.
Hence the joke. But I'll tell you, we should probably get around to talking about the slasher episode. Good news is, folks, like the notes on this episode, like a page and a half. So this ain't gonna take long.
There isn't actually a lot that happens in this, mostly
No.
because the whole opening scene of this is regurgitated footage from episode 1.
Yeah, this episode is one of the shorter episodes of the show, and it's
Yeah.
reusing footage. This is the
Yeah.
clip show of season 1 of Slasher.
This is, we got greenlit for 8 episodes, but realistically, there's only 7 worth of script here. So, can we? This is the hashtag stall episode of the
Yeah.
stretch.
Boy, yeah, all filler, no killer in this one. That is
Right,
100% true.
Well, yeah, actually, you're right, because he doesn't actually kill anyone in this episode.
No, we'll get to the belly flop.
Yeah, the belly flop, which makes zero fucking sense. But we're gonna it's one of many things that doesn't make sense, because this episode, Bo, what's it called? What's this one called?
In the pride of his face.
In your face.
In the pride of your face, Duncan.
In the face.
And it opens up, because again, we're cutting all the corners we can for episode 7. Opens up with the end of the last episode, just
The exact dialogue from the end. So not like, you know how like it used to be cool when you watched like old episodes of Batman or something, where they would do they would give you the scene from the scene that was the previous scene in the last episode, or the kind of closing scene, but it'd be slightly different. So they would be in slightly different places, or the dialogue would be delivered differently, or the camera would be at a different angle. I love that. There's something about that makes me smile. There's a certain charm. No. This is just the same footage. It's exactly the same conversation footage done again.
Yeah, no, we're just reusing the same footage, and it's where Sarah is at Tom Winston's bedside, who loyal viewers of this show may recall he ended up staging a fight essentially to get tossed into the infirmary.
Because he thought they would tell.
Right, because the whole plan was to get Sarah to come see him, which she does.
Yeah, but not because she's been told.
No, not because he got beat up. That whole plan was pointless. No, she's going to see him because of further murders and whatnots. And anyway, so she's at his bedside and she's like, "So you're finally gonna tell me, aren't you? You're me father. Now tell me why you killed me parents."
And I'm like, oh, right. So are we going to get... And it flashes back. It flashes back to 1988. And Bo, I was like that. Finally, let's do this.
Yeah.
And much to my dismay, Bo, it's the opening scene of the first episode with a little bit tagged on, which adds nothing.
Yeah, there's no further revelations or anything like that. It's just, although I have to say, the pregnant belly flop in the blood still pretty funny.
It's funny. Also, completely would kill the baby, but
or just squirt it right out.
or like right out like a bungee cord, like poof, you just have to catch it with a catcher's mitt. But you know,
shoot down the hall and then bounce back. Oh, my baby.
some sort of weird kind of fetal ping pong.
Like those old paddleball games, you know. That's why you have an umbilical cord. You're a father, Duncan. You know this.
Yeah, this is true. It's medically, having looked into it, this is exactly the reason that kids are born with an umbilical cord. It's nothing to do with feeding.
Yeah,
it's to do with awesome. And so
it's right. They tell you that in schools.
Extreme, Bo, extreme.
They put on a little third eye blind and bungee right out of a uterus.
But like she falls over, so we get the same scene. She falls over. This time, the extended scene is basically Tom being revealed as the killer by her, where she pleads for her life, telling him that, you know, it's your baby,
right? Which we know.
Which we already knew.
Yeah.
And, you know, I love you. Actually, I fell in love with you. And love will see us through, Bo. Like, love will get us through.
Love will keep us together.
Totally inappropriate for this scene, but would also totally work. But yeah, the frustrating thing about the show is I actually do like the gore. See, when the show goes gory, I like how vicious it gets. He stabs her in the fucking throat. And then he slices open her belly first, which, by the way, you'd kill the baby. But it just seems to be my theme here is you kill the baby. She falls, baby dies. Slice, baby dies. But like he basically slices her belly and then stabs her in the fucking throat. And it's gnarly. And we flash back to Tom Winston lying on the bed. And Sarah looks kind of pissed off because no new information has been passed on. I look pissed off because no new information's on. I was thinking in my head, Bo's probably going to be pissed off because no new information's been put on, and then credits.
Yeah, right. She's like, so why'd you really kill him then? I knew all of that. And he's just like, huh. And just kind of looks away all dramatic. And that's it. He
goes, oh boy, and we realize Sam Beckett has actually been transferred at that point.
Yeah, Sam... Ziggy is telling me there's an 87% chance that you gotta save her from this killer, the executioner.
Which is why he jumps? That's the belly flop explanation.
Right, 100%. We've once more have made this a better show.
Oh yeah, but we do. It cuts to credits, and I'm just like, this is why I hate this show. This is why.
The first 8 minutes of this show, all the information we knew before, spinning our wheels, we know nothing else.
Absolutely, except she said that she loved him. That's it.
Yeah, all right, fine. So, after the credits, cut to Sarah drinking with Robin at brunch again. Which
is becoming a habit.
Sarah is maybe drinking a little more than she needs to.
Yeah, just a tad.
And then while they're having drinks, she asks Robin, she goes, "Robin, do you think I'm dumb?" And it's like, oh man, That's a little bit of a softball here, Sarah.
Robin's doing the Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator, going through all the different things he can say really quickly.
Fuck
And most of
you,
them are,
asshole.
most of them are, yes, you are. That's a stupid question because it's obvious. Have you looked in the mirror? Why are you so fucking clueless? Why did you move back here? Remember, my husband died recently, leaving me $2 million in the hole. And I'm drinking at lunch because I want to just get fucked. You're bringing this shit to my door?
Man, I totally forgot about his debts and everything. They have
Yeah,
not mentioned that in 5 episodes.
$2 million in the hole, Bo,
Yeah.
and his husband, the love of his life, who granted put him in $2 million in the hole, dead
And-
by the killer that wasn't killing until she moved back.
And I love how Robin is just like, no, you're not dumb. I mean, you're smart. You're a smart girl.
You're
You
a
found-
smart.
You found Ariel, so you're not totally stupid.
Well, yeah, she's like, do you think it's like me coming back here was a bad idea? And everyone sitting at their tables is like, yes, like, but like, so no, you saved the day. That's one good thing that's come out of it. By the way, remember, $2 million in the hole, and my husband died. But yeah, let's just talk about you. Let's make it all about you, Sarah.
And she's like, look, I wish I could stay to talk, but I can't. I gotta go home and talk to my no good husband.
He's like, oh, trouble in paradise.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well-
like, yeah, they've never been a happy couple since they come here. So why you're doing that? It's like they're constantly at each other's throats. Trouble in paradise. Fuck you.
Yeah. And even she says, well, I don't know about the paradise part, but
Yeah.
there's definitely trouble. I'm about to give my little Jack Johnson, I think.
She's like, business is going to pick up. And we realize really quickly that once again, Slasher is cutting checks that its ass can't cash, Bo,
No.
because we go right back on that within 3 seconds.
Yeah, she goes home and immediately Dylan has just set out like this really nice dinner for her. There's like wine. He's got this fancy dessert, the whole deal.
Pears and espresso cream, which sounds poached pears and espresso cream. Now Alan is here. Alan is a chef. So poached pears, unless he's poaching it in something that would be complemented by espresso cream, that sounds fucking rank. Like see when he interestingly enough, when the camera pans to that dessert later on, half eaten, which makes sense. Whatever it was, everything else sounded lovely. There was a salad he'd made, which sounded really nice. Lamb with pomegranate. I was like, oh, it sounds delicious. And then he's like, yeah, a poached pear, with fucking espresso cream, and I was like, ugh. And I love espresso. I love espresso, but you're fucking with a good old cup of coffee there by doing some fancy shit and putting it beside a pear. Stop.
Not crazy about pears in general.
I like, but see, pears, like, it's that great Eddie Izzard skit where pears have like maybe about like half a day of being like ripe and edible, and if you eat them either side of that, you either break a tooth eating it or it's just mush.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably my problem is I haven't had a lot of great pears.
Yeah. Don't be eating American pears for a start. Get yourself some English ones.
Let's not turn this into a national thing. So, anyway, so Dylan is like, well, hey, let's toast to fresh starts. And he gives her this whole line about how he's been a bad husband and he takes full responsibility for all this.
Yep.
And Sarah's like, I think somebody might be getting laid tonight.
She is like literally, she's like, we're gonna rekindle some of the magic. I'm gonna, I know it's kind of inappropriate, but I'm gonna do what my mum used to do. I'm gonna film us. Like, nothing bad's coming out of this. In the same bed, we will fuck in the same room my mum fucked in before she died.
And then she takes a hard right turn, though.
Oh yeah, like she from all this lovely thing rekindling and all the rest, ultimatums are dropped here like bombs, Bo.
Yeah, she goes from, I think you're making me a little moist between my legs there, fella. From that to, what I've decided is we can't stay here in this house anymore.
Yep.
I think we need to leave. In fact, I think the decision is your career or me.
Yeah.
And then goes upstairs and Dylan's like, the fuck just happened?
Yeah, literally, it's like a right turn. She doesn't even go upstairs though. She goes through to, and this is, I love this because they make mention of her bad leg,
Oh, right.
right?
Yeah,
But she was
yeah.
walking around with fine, but as this episode goes on, gets progressively worse. So this is the delayed effects of about 3 days since she got hit with a fucking crowbar, which
Yeah.
like she's like walking progressively worse. She goes through to the living room, and what I love about this is like I want you to drop the case and all the rest. She goes on a website to do with the murder of her mother, and then the first thing, like
Uh,
she asks him is, in his research, did they come across anything to do with her mother's murder? And I'm like that. So you've told them to drop the case, not think about it. It's her
mhm.
or the career, and 3 seconds later, she wants dirt from him about the case. Very difficult. Very, very, very. It's like taking a recovering alcoholic to a wine bar and asking what on the menu they would recommend.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like-
And she's goes to the couch with her laptop and is like, all right, well, if you won't tell me, I'm just gonna search some random websites then.
yeah.
And starts looking up, facts, like just Googling things I don't know about my parents' murder. and and finds this website.
This website that was clearly built on Angel Fire, like in 1999, that has a real kind of shunky background feel to it. It doesn't look nice at all.
Yeah, yeah. And right, it looks like it's a MySpace page or Geospaces or something.
Still uses Flash.
There's that
you know what I mean?
little under construction GIF of the guy with the the guy with the jackhammer doing but anyway, so she there's a contact. There's just like a, hey, leave a comment on
Yeah,
this
well, it's
post.
like if you've got any information about it, please get in touch.
Yes.
To which she messages the person who runs the website saying, I need some information. I'm like, that's literally not what the information's on the website. You know what I
Right.
mean? It says leave a comment if you have information on it, not the other way around. And also, like, why are you not writing on this? I'm the daughter. We should chat. It's like sometimes you
Yeah.
get like, and like no. It's just like she puts her email in, which
Or
is
you,
kinda
or
obvious.
use an anonymous name. Don't
Yep.
don't just be like, oh, it's me, Sarah, the lady that you're talking about here. Instead, right? Or you either go totally anonymous, or you contact them and say, I'm this girl. We need to
Yes.
sit down and have a talk.
Yeah, that's literally what you would do. But no, she types this message. She hits enter. Meanwhile, like Dylan's all shifty in the kitchen, he's doing his hashtag stall stretch. He's like, no, sorry, I didn't hear you. I was putting away things, darling.
Meanwhile, his phone is like, ping, and she's like,
at first, she doesn't look at first, and I'm like, you're going to look at his phone.
yeah,
Which, one, not cool, but two, I get it. And then she types, but this phone bings 3 times. So she sends 3 emails.
yes,
Because the first time she doesn't equate it to it. So she then writes a second email, it pings, and she's like,
wait a
this is
second,
suspicious.
that's quite a coincidence.
Many.
What if I tried a third time?
But like, I was kind of thinking to myself, she sent the first email.
Uh-huh.
Why would you send a second email straight away to the same email address
Well,
from that box? Oh, by the
it's-
way, my name's Sarah and I'm the daughter. That, like, I forgot
It's
to
just
mention that in
good
my first
science.
video.
It's, clickety, 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 send, ping. Wait a second, I think I'm onto something here.
Oh,
Clickety, 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 send, ping.
oh man. And of course, like, so she
Just
lives-
one more for good measure. Clickety, 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 send, ping.
So she lifts it up and she sees he's got 3 email notifications, and she's like that. Oh, Dylan, what's your password to your phone? I need it now. And he's like, that's my bad northern
It's
accent.
your Irish accent is terrible.
I'm Scottish though. That's
It's also better than mine, you son of a bitch.
There's shared DNA between our nations. But yeah,
Ew, gross.
yeah, nice. She's like, I need your pass to the phone. The Wi-Fi is a bit spotty. And he's like, yeah, cool. So he gives her the password, and then he comes through, and she's like, huh, right in his face for the phone.
Yeah.
You.
Look at this, you son of a bitch.
But the thing is, I was thinking to myself, what does that like? Because I know what it means in the bigger scheme, but from the smaller scheme, what does this actually mean? From her, what's she playing in her head about this? Because she makes some lofty jumps with no evidence at all, which is a very Sarah thing to do. But.
Sure. Well, her complaint is that from the time that they met,
Yep.
he was trying to get into her good graces because he was chasing the story of the murders.
But how does she know how old the website is?
I don't know that she knows that. I think it's more of like she's just jumping to that conclusion.
She jumps at which
isn't
clearly
wrong. She's
not wrong. She's 100% right.
Yeah.
But it is a swift left turn from your emails attached to a website about my parents' murders to, you know,
you've manipulated
me. You manipulated me, and this marriage has been, born out of a farce. Which it has. I mean, we know that, and it's now. This is the loose reveal, by the way, because we're never going to get the proper reveal. We got a couple of reveals in this episode, and they're just kind of flung in here to tie up loose ends with no degree of satisfaction. But this is why he was in touch with Tom by letter.
Yes,
he was obviously investigating it beforehand. So this is how we find out, not from Tom. So that whole awkward showdown at the
penitentiary question mark.
We're gonna get even better with that. Like he said, like we need to get him like later. We need to get him back to the town penitentiary. Why? Like if you're a serial killer and you've been attacked in jail, you get taken to the infirmary in the jail.
Yeah,
they don't take you to the local hospital. He wasn't in there anyway.
And honestly, it's just the back room of the Rexall.
Of course it is.
It's hospital is a stretch, but yeah. And so
like he says that he admits to it as well. To his credit,
yeah.
He says, "Listen, first you were Mark, but when I met you, I did fall in love with you. That was never a lie. I do really love you. All the rest." And she is having none of it. But in the meantime, things are happening elsewhere, Bo.
Yes, they're interrupted by Cam, who is busting in to let Sarah know that
because we've missed a scene. So we've missed a scene, right? So the scene that we've missed here is pish, right? But we might as well cover it.
Yeah.
The cop who I can't remember.
Sharma is his name.
Yeah, I can't remember him. This is my bad memory. I can't remember him being in this much, but he apparently appears to be. He's a comic relief of this show.
I guess. I mean, he hasn't been in it a bunch. First of all,
but he's now the comic relief of this show.
Yes,
he finds for some reason he has been called to the. I don't know why I do quotation marks because the listeners that are listening to the podcast can't hear that, but the viewers can. So he gets called to the apartment where that family died. Like years ago, because of that bad, property deal or whatever, they froze to death. Which
Robin's husband's clearing the land kind of thing. Yeah.
So he comes to there and he finds he essentially comes across what looks like to be the staging area of the executioner, and that there are on the wall
like Junji Ito style drawings.
Yeah. Which, once again, when we find out who the executioner is, which we will in this episode about that, why the fuck are you in the profession you're in? And why is Sarah the artist? Like, there seems like a disconnect here. You should have the art gallery. But anyway, like a comic book like franchise, so these hand-drawn 7 Deadly Sins. And as he's calling for backup, he hears a noise, and in walks Cam. And I was like, Cam got there quick. I wonder if Duncan and Bo's theory from episode number 1 will pan out.
Yeah. It turns out the least surprising thing ever happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cam is there and he's like, "Hey, boy, this sure is one creepy room, all right. say,
Yeah.
look at this awesome little black book that
Yeah.
has all these cool
Yeah.
sins written in it, and it's just names of just like, hey, here are all the potential victims for this sin, and
It's
then
like, literally, yeah. It's like,
and then a
it's-
circle like, around the name of who the killer decided on.
yeah, I mean, it's everything you need to know that it is a serial killer's lair.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
all like sprayed out. But he notices that there's only 6 deadly sins on the wall, to which Cam says, pride is missing. And I'm like, you knew that pretty quick there, Cam, but I suppose you have been investigating this after all. And your father is the minister, so I can kind of see where we're going with this. But yeah, very, very, very quickly, he's like, yeah, pride's not there. They flip to the book, and there are 2 names in the book. I get only 2 names in the book for pride. Now, to me, I feel like pride is probably the sin that most people commit. Like, so the fact that the executioner could only get 2 names from the town that met his definition of, or her definition of pride, kind of shitty. But anyway, this is why Cam ends up there, and he breaks down the door during a domestic. While he's got like Dylan actually has his hand on her to stop her walking away, and that's when the door gets beaten down. And if I was Dylan, I'd be thinking, oh, the black man's going to prison. Surprise, surprise. Cops
Right.
turn up really quick when that happens.
Yeah,
White
it's
girl in trouble, cops there in a second.
becomes the director's cut of Get Out. So Cam rescues, again in quotes, rescues Sarah from Dylan, takes her back to his place, and she's upset at
But does he
herself.
though?
I think that's where they are.
But 'cause that's what I thought, and I think there's a continuity error in here, because that's where I thought they threw Dylan out and they stayed in that house. But the next scene, you're right, they're in Cam's house.
Yeah.
However, when Officer Goofy or Diffie or whatever we're calling him shows up to rescue him later on, it's in Sarah's house.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
And no, I think you're right. I think it's a complete continuity error.
But so Sarah is saying like, I should have known that he was using me all along. And
you were right, Cam. And Cam's
Yeah.
like, well, I didn't want to be right, but
hey, sometimes Cam's right. What can I tell you? And
yeah, but then she fucks this in the ass right away. Like, because she basically turns around to, how did you feel about it when your wife was cheating on you? Your dead wife.
yeah, he's like, well, honestly, it wasn't cool. I gotta
she's
be
like,
honest,
"Oh,
Sarah.
I really shouldn't have said that." And I'm like, yes, Sarah, you shouldn't have fucking said that.
Yeah, she has all the tact
Dumb
of a
bitch.
blitzkrieg. And
All
anyway,
the grace
he's
of a dump truck.
Ben Laurie. So he confesses that he never really forgave June.
Yeah.
And then he's like, how about you go to bed instead of making me feel like a piece of shit for a little bit? And she's like, that's a good idea. I'm a little worn out on account of pitying you for your horrible life.
She gets up though, and she's walking with a limp now, and I'm
Yeah.
like, but that she didn't get far.
Meanwhile, speaking of Dylan, he is being interviewed by Lisa Ann Fellows
Yeah.
for her show or whatever. And Lisa Ann Fellows.
She has a line in this which, like, I genuinely said the words "fuck" right off at my telly. Like, I it's coming up, but I was just like, no. Like, this is someone who, no offense to Canada, this is someone who lives in Canada that doesn't know how expensive property is in New York, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, that 5,000 square foot condo.
Yeah, like, is she fucking Jeffrey Epstein? Like, the fuck this? And Lower East Manhattan is what she says.
Yeah.
Like, pound for pound, the most expensive property, and 500 square foot. No, she doesn't.
5,000 square foot.
Let's-
Yeah.
No, she does not. Like, because she's not in bumfuck nowhere doing this story. If she has that,
Right.
like, what am I fucking doing here?
Yeah. Like
You just said I have a penthouse apartment in New York. That would have been enough, Bo.
Yes. It is a silly description. It is completely unreasonable. You're right. Like, she would have to be a multi-millionaire.
She'd have to be a Kardashian.
Yeah.
Like,
And she's just the host of a news show. as best I can tell, who's written a couple of books, she's probably doing fine, but I don't know
She
that
ain't
it's...
Oprah, you know what I mean?
Right. Oprah would have 5,000 square feet and on the Lower East Side.
Yeah, and she's maybe the richest woman on the planet.
Right,
That's why she has that.
Yes. So anyway, super wealthy Lisa Ann Fellows is...
Super wealthy Lisa Ann Fellows who made that other woman pay the check for their shitty meal 4 episodes
That's how you...
ago.
That's how you stay rich, Duncan.
That's how you stay rich. You
Yeah.
don't pay for anything. Yeah.
And so she's like, so I hear that the police found a kill list with your wife's name on it. What about that? And Dylan is like, hey, come on now. I can't.
He's like,
That's my wife.
yikes.
And she's like, all right. Hypothetically, let's say,
hypothetically, I'm going to ask you the same question again.
right. Hypothetically, let's say your wife is on a hypothetical kill list and the killer is allegedly going to kill her.
Allegedly.
And then Dylan gets real serious. And he's like, well, I want to talk about what we do know. I don't want to talk about hypotheticals. What I know is that the last sin is pride, and that's the most heinous of all sins because that is an affront to God himself. And she's like, all right, this is absolutely terrible television, but go on.
Yeah.
And so while he's given this interview, we get our meanwhile with Tom Winston,
Yep.
where Detective Sharma and a pretty lady EMT are in the back of this ambulance as Tom is being taken back to the penitentiary that just landed him in the hospital for safety reasons.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like I say,
All right.
like this is the thing that doesn't make any sense. So, what? One of the many things that, like, one of the bevy of things that don't make sense. Like, so he was in prison. They didn't take him out of prison to take him to hospital for getting beaten up by a fellow inmate. So they're going to take him closer so they can keep an eye on him. And this is the Hannibal Lecter scene that I've been wanting this whole season. And that when, if you watch Silence of the Lambs, what's his name? Detective or Agent Pembry?
Yeah.
Is it?
That's
he cuts
Pembry.
off- Yeah,
It's Jack Pembry.
Jack Stevie Davy Pembry. God damn it. Jack Liberty Pembry, because they have to goddamn America. Right, you know what I mean? It's like Jack Bald Eagle Pembry is lying there. It's like JFK Pembry. Like cuts his face off.
Jack Ulysses S. Grant Pembry.
But it's Silence of the Lambs obviously cuts the face off to make his escape, and we don't get the reveal that it is Hannibal until we're in the famous scene in the EMT driving. In the case of this one, he's strapped there in Shawarma or Shawarmi or whatever his name is flirting openly flirting with this EMT.
Yeah.
And he's basically, he's like, yeah, this, really dangerous killer, but subdued, because I'm the man. I'm in charge. And she's just like, oh, he's a monster. He's a monster. And in front of them both, Tom dislocates his thumb.
Right. Well, during this conversation, Sharma is like, yeah, that's right. There's this whole kill list, and this guy's on it along with Sarah, who may or may not be his daughter.
He's
Tom totally is just like, huh? What's that? and that's to your point, this is where he's like, crack. And everybody
like, right in front of them, and when he does it though, he goes, he makes a noise, an audibly harsh noise, because he's just dislocating his fucking thumb.
Oh, my thumb.
But they don't notice because they're flirting. And then he takes his cuff off his hand and then claims that the cuffs are too tight. And of course, that EMT's like, well, that's, like, tight cuffs is, the least thing that you should worry about, fucking murder. And I'm like, I'm with the EMT here. She seems like a smart person. And of course, our cop dude's like, it's okay, let me just listen to him from here. So he gets up, strangles him, but not to death.
Yeah, just kind of chokes him out. Oh, it's a sleeper hold. That can't be illegal.
That man's got a family.
So chokes him out, but then the lady EMT,
the insinuation is he kills her.
yeah, because he tells her, I don't expect you to feel sorry for me, because I sure don't feel sorry about you. And then kind of descends on her. And like you said, the implication is that he murders her, but
Well, we don't ever see her again.
right. And it
Cop again.
and it totally changes that character.
That character is not the same now.
Yeah. And
Like, even a little bit, that guy is not the same. So
back to Lisa Ann and Dylan, who are getting fucked up drunk after this interview.
Yeah, well, she's trying to be all coy with, you were holding out on me, and I'm sorry if it was a bit rough with you, and then we get her backstory, which includes the line of her fucking palatial palace in the upper west side of Manhattan or wherever it was, where she basically says, listen, my first husband, the insinuation being that there have been many, her first husband died in a hit and run or drive-by, one of the two, and she was a struggling reporter at the time, so she leaned heavily into this, generated a whole story and career about it, and her in-laws and his family and all the rest, they were horrified by it, and they don't speak to her anymore, which is fine because they're still living in poor ass Philadelphia, and me, I've got a 5,000 square foot property in New York. No, you don't. But she's like, so, and you're going to head that way as well because of that book deal I got you. And he's like, for real? And she's like, yeah, I got you the book deal and the up, and me and you, great things, but you need to be on Team Fellows and get yourself out of this thing. So ultimately, Dylan is being tempted back. Bo. He was trying, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Tempted by the book of another.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
So he's been wooed this way, and it looks like he might. Well, he's gonna. Well, up until the end of this episode, he was totally doing this. He might still. We never know.
But
and if I'll be honest, if I was fucking Sarah, I'd be telling him to do it because you know what? I don't want this house anymore. I want a 5,000 square foot mansion in New York.
Right. It's already going to be she's just not in a place to have this conversation with him right now. But yeah she should be like, you know what? I'm going to help you out on this. We're going to be partners on this, whether or not we remain married. But you're going to write this book regardless, but you're going to cut me in on the profit. I'm going to give you an exclusive interview.
Exactly.
And then neither of us are ever going to work a day in our lives.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that money.
Mm-hmm. Gotta have some good old sense, some good old Irish horse sense. Listen to me, Dolan. Here's what we're gonna do.
Some good old-fashioned
Irish horse sense.
He said Irish whore.
Yeah, Irish horse sense. Yeah.
Stuff like that. Really?
There are 3 things you got to know. 1, make sure you wash between the legs at least twice a day. Number 2, get the money up front. That is key.
3, make sure your pimp's packing a shillelagh. Is that what?
Number 3, make sure your pimp is depositing your money in at least 3 different banks. That's why it's number 3, so it's easy to remember.
Oh man.
So yeah, she has good old fashioned horse sense. And anyway, Cam meanwhile gets the phone call that, oh, by the way, Tom escaped.
Yep, Tom's on the loose.
And because this show cannot hold its load for more than 2 seconds, it's just like the teenage boy of television shows, where as soon as it gets a little bit of tease, where it's like, oh my God, Tom Winston's on the loose. Oh yeah, Tom Winston's out there. And then 2 seconds later, we're popping the cork with him jumping into the room. And it's like, you could have a scene where it's just like, oh my God, this guy who's her father, but also a killer, is out there and may be coming for her. Let that simmer for 2 seconds.
Yeah. No.
Nah.
He's right there. He got straight to that house. No problem.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, how we
it
got
turns
there,
out
we don't know.
the penitentiary was only 2 doors down.
Yeah, it's like it's a house next door at this rate. Like there's like someone needs to do one of those, the deep dive Stanley Kubrick videos and try to construct how complicated and disjointed the Shining house was.
Yeah.
Like the Overlook Hotel. Someone needs to do that in Waterbury just so I can work out exactly how the fucking town logistics work because it's a piece of shit. But yeah, like so he shows up, a Vec gun. And he's forces Cam to essentially don the irons to the irons and kidnaps. This is how we know it's definitely at her house because he wouldn't know where Cam lived. So he fucking kidnaps Sarah, and they go on the run,
and they just go camping.
Yeah. This is a thing where like the expletives were flowing freely from my mouth during this whole scene where they're having they're 2 steps away from roasting marshmallows. Well,
all right. So what happens is he just drives out into the woods somewhere, and they build a fire.
Safe there,
right? I don't know what the ultimate game plan is. We stay in the woods for the rest of our lives, apparently.
Maybe.
And there's this whole thing.
They'll never find us here.
Yeah, it's like, Brenda never let me go to camp or nothing.
Yeah.
But, I always wanted to learn how to canoe, but then I fell into the water. And he's like, I would have taught you how to canoe, Sarah. I would have taught you many things, how to hunt, how to skin, how to taste. And she's like, yeah, I would have liked that. But instead I got strung up with this old hag Brenda. Old grandma.
I was like, Brenda's a goddamn fucking saint. How dare you disrespect her on this fucking show?
It was a better
character we had.
It's a better Christmas in the old Sarah household. She gave me a carton of cigarettes and said, "Smoke up, Sarah."
It's like she's bitching about Brenda, like romanticizing and fantasizing about a life with her serial killer dad.
Right, the woman whose biggest crime was being a little snarky. And telling you, like, you need to leave. Like, yes.
Telling you that you need to leave, which you've decided you have to do. And, Dylan's not good for you, which you think he isn't. So, if anything, Brenda's been proved right. Like
every step of the way. Brenda was right all along. In fact,
she's too good for the show, Bo. She was too good for the show.
You're right. Too good for any of us, really. And so, Tom Winston is like, I'd rather die than lose you.
And it makes a point in making sure that she knows that, the audience knows that, and also when you delve into that logic, doesn't make sense.
Nope. And so
it doesn't make a bit of sense.
Deputy Sharma shows up after being choked out at Cam's place and or Sarah's place,
which is the same place,
where Cam is all cuffed up, and he lets him go.
Like a comic scene here is like, did you get choked out again? And he's like, oh.
You know how it is. Sometimes I just get choked.
I was like, watching the telly going, there's an executioner on the loose. There's a Tom Winston on the loose. And Sarah is between a fucking rock and a hard place when it comes to that. And we have time for this bullshit?
It's so stupid. All right, so then after he is freed and back on the loose, we cut back to Lisa Ann Fellows and Dylan, who are even more fucked up. And now she reveals this even crazier story about how they were interviewing some former addict who had cleaned up. So they got him re-strung out on crystal meth or something just to make good news. And he's just like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's so bad. And then Lisa Ann Fellows is like, Sarah's holding you back. You need to shake her loose and be a superstar. And then Cam calls and is like, and tells him hey, Sarah's missing because Tom Winston just
But he
kidnapped
says,
her.
"Have you heard from Sarah, or have you seen
Right.
Sarah?" And he's like, "That well, no, she's with you." And he's like, "You need to come in the station."
And immediately, Dylan is 100% sober.
Sober.
Yeah, it is like, I gotta go. And she's like, why are you going?
I gotta poop.
Yes. And so he takes off. Then while he's heading to the station, Tom and Sarah are chit-chatting more about all this canoe bullshit. And Tom has some kind of seizure. And did this happen before on the show? I don't recall.
No, I think it's the insinuation is it's his head injury.
Yeah, all right, fine.
Maybe. I don't fucking know, but this is all used as a ruse for him to destroy our mobile. That is literally this is the best the writers could come up with is Tom has a seizure, which doesn't mean anything at all just now.
Yeah.
I mean, we might get revealed in the next episode he was dying or some shit, but even then I couldn't give a fuck. Like he was basically the mechanism here is he's gonna have a seizure, so she's gonna phone 911.
Right.
And
but that's gonna create a ping so that people are gonna know where Sarah is.
Yeah. If her phone's on, they can track it anyway.
Right.
So we don't even need to worry about that. But anyway, he destroys the phone, and thus he seems to be fine after that. Like
he's like, you have to get out of here, Sarah. Leave, run.
Come on, get out of here.
And so she does. She runs off into the woods.
Yeah, 2 seconds after him saying that he can't bear to lose her, he's telling her to fuck off.
All right, and so because it's important to trace this chronology a little bit, we cut from here to the police station.
Yes.
Where Dylan is giving Cam a whole you had one job kind of routine.
Yeah.
Of like,
Dylan is being pious as fuck here, right?
Yes.
Smug Dylan has returned, and he's kind of right, but at the same time I'm like, yeah, well, if you hadn't created a whole website about your wife's dead parents and then married her under the guise of potentially loving her, but also a story, maybe we wouldn't be in this position to begin with. So I'm just saying, if some butts were coconuts, Bo, you know what I mean? So like that's as far as I know in that rhyme, so I don't know anymore.
Yeah, it's if some butts were candy and nuts, then we'd all.
Oh right, candy and nuts. I thought they were coconuts.
Candy and nuts, then we'd all be something on Christmas. How I was. It's been a long time since I've heard that one.
My one's better. If some butts were coconuts, then you just trail off.
Yeah, and just stop talking, and then look confused.
It's like,
someone smell pennies.
Fool me once, shame on.
Fool me and won't get fooled again.
Fool me won't get fooled again.
Fool me once, fool me won't get fooled again. Yeah. So anyway, Cam, like Sharma comes in, Deputy Sharma, and it comes in and is like, "Hey Cam, we got a ping on Sarah's cell phone. She's somewhere out on the edge of town." And
also, this is the most scenes I've been in this whole season.
Right. Also, remember me? Check me in my new spinoff series, Sharma, coming soon to the WB, where it's just him getting choked out in every episode. It's the only way he can orgasm anymore. Choke me! Come on, choke me!
He's gonna do he's gonna have a real Carradine outcome, if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean, and that's the finale, the season finale.
Season finale. It's gonna get messy.
Is him like passing out while still hanging from the door?
Yep.
Will Sharma survive till next season? Will someone come home and find him? Anyway, so basically Cam is like, hey, you civilians, go look for him. See if you can find Sarah.
Really?
Yeah. Look,
but this is the red herring thing. So we have Dylan, we have Cam, and we have the priest. All in the same
all
room.
out in the woods.
Yeah. So it could be any of them, Bo.
So when Sarah then is out in the woods and she sees this police cruiser coming by, she's like, here, it's me, Sarah. And before the police cruiser spots her, the executioner grabs her kind of from out of nowhere. And so Tom and Sarah then wake up tied by rope in this sawmill.
Yep.
And Sarah's like, oh no, it's the sin of pride. It's being broken on a wheel.
Which we'd heard earlier on.
Right. And it turns out the wheel in question is a giant, saw, a big industrial saw.
Yeah. Which I mean we're playing loose here. But then we've been playing loose all the way through this.
Sure. And Sarah, Tom's trying to get Sarah off the hook by saying, yes, she was prideful, but her
he
sin.
asks her. He basically says, "What pride? What sin has she committed? The pride?" And we get the reveal that Sarah tried to commit suicide.
Right.
because-
It doesn't mean anything to anything, but yes, that is.
Well,
her
why?
sin.
Because that's basically Tom's rationale is that doesn't count. The reason it doesn't count is she was doing it to herself.
Right.
Which nulls the sin argument. It wasn't an affront to God. It was her, an affront to herself, if anything.
And
this
that's
is
the
logic.
Bible. No backseas.
Yep. And the executioner does not agree,
Mhm.
interestingly enough. And he decides he's going to do it anyway. And yeah, Tom's going to continue trying to wriggle out of this as much as possible. And I was like, just dislocate your thumb, Tom. That worked earlier.
Right. Go with. I mean, it's probably already. It's still dislocated, right?
Well,
That happened like
is-
20 minutes ago.
Yeah, but the thing about this is like we build up through this fucking nonsense, right? And ultimately the executioner will untie Tom completely, and he's not got a weapon on him, so Tom could fight.
Yeah. He
Or
just
do
doesn't.
anything.
Yeah.
And he doesn't.
Right. So Tom is begging to take her place,
Mhm.
and then we get the flashback that kind of illuminates his motive to a greater degree.
Does it? Well,
I mean, kinda. The idea is that back in 1988, he was the local reverend,
he was the preacher. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was the preacher.
and he's given a sermon, and he has dedicated his life to cleaning up Waterbury, which is filled with gambling and prostitution and drugs, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, who'd have thought?
Right. It's Times Square in 1978 here in Waterbury. And you just can't throw a dart without hitting a pimp and or a hoe. And so he's given this big sermon, and then Sarah's mom, Rachel, comes in looking all sexy in her suburban sundress.
Mhm.
And she's like, you're doing so much good work, and God, it just makes me so fucking wet how much you're cleaning up this town. And he's like,
So fucking horny for Jesus right now.
Yeah,
so horny
she's like,
for Jesus.
oh my God, I love the way that cross is so hard and long at the bottom. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Father Tom? And he's just like, I know what you mean. And he manages to finish this sermon. Yeah. I mean, the fact that he does not come right there in front of everybody.
He's 2 seconds out. He's like, Lord to Jesus, yada, yada, yada. Amen, right? This
Yeah.
has been great, guys. We're going to forgo passing round the plate for donations this week because the church is rich, yo, right? And I'm not going to speak to you all. You guys can all go get the fuck in my church.
I got a little prophecy of my own.
Yeah.
I think I think that someone's gonna rise in my pants.
Rise from the dead.
Uh-huh. It's not gonna take 3 days either.
Woo.
So cut
Get
immediately
a little
to
bit of
them
this
post-coital.
confessional wine here right on the old communion wine on. Woo.
Right,
What's
does the
fresh.
whole curly like let it in, let it in. Rubs a tuna sandwich under his arms.
Well, we cut to some like physical exercise in a bed.
Yeah, they just immediately fuck, and then afterwards, she's like, I really enjoy our time. Can you stay a little longer? And he's like, no, I got to get back because I feel really guilty about this. What with being a reverend and all,
Yeah.
and you being not just one of my parishioners but also married. And she's like, it's cool, baby, it's cool.
Well,
And
he basically says to her, listen, I actually think that I love you.
right.
And I'm like, this is the first time you've slept with her. Like, let's chill out with the love word.
It's he's a real eager beaver.
Yes.
And then she kind of says like, "Hey, I can't do this anymore."
Yeah.
But she's not talking to, Reverend Tom.
Mm-hmm.
It's her husband Brian who comes in, and Tom, rightfully is like, "The fuck is going on?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, it's cool, baby. I like it. I like it. In fact, let me ask you a question. What was your favorite part about fucking my wife? Is it her boobs? She's got a nice rack." And he's like, "I don't understand what any of this is. What is happening here?" And he's like, yeah.
He's
See,
like, what is love, baby? Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more.
he's like, "Yeah, I got. Look over here in the closet. Check out this camera. My buddy Henry Allen. He or Alan Henry is his name. He helps me distribute these videotapes that I'm making with my wife. And now you, Reverend, are in a fuck tape with my wife. So you're gonna back off."
Here's the thing. Right?
Yes.
Here's the thing.
Please.
I'm trying to work out exactly what I know what the motivation is for this particular tape. The motivation is to hold it over him as blackmail so he will not rail against the underground porn circuit that's happening in 1988 in Waterbury.
That's right.
Which how the Reverend got wind of this is beyond me, because he wouldn't be watching that sort of stuff. But anyway, he's trying to basically blackmail on that. And then I was trying to think about, so is this what they do for a living? She just makes fuck tapes and they send them out, or
maybe it's extra income. I don't know. I don't know what their jobs are.
Yeah, but then because like once again, once you just go one level below the surface, none of it makes any fucking sense. So she doesn't want to do this anymore, or that's the insinuation, or she can't do it with the Reverend because she does have feelings for him,
right? Or something, yes.
or some bullshit, because it doesn't make any sense, right? But I will, if you don't back off, we'll ruin you, essentially, is the motivation for Tom killing them?
I think the idea is that there's this kind of montage where you see him in the pulpit preaching, and the idea is that he's kind of living with this shame and also
for
this
8 months,
right? This
because
love
she's heavily pregnant when he kills her,
right.
So he just lives with this for 8 months, and then one day snaps.
And it just drives him bananas, and he ends up killing Brian because Brian was terrible, and then killing the mother, also because she was terrible and he can't trust her and all that stuff. But he wants to save the baby, which is why at the beginning of the show we see him
cuts the guy's face because he's the guy that's distributing the videotapes. That wouldn't really work.
I guess marked him just to be like, I you're in on it, but you haven't committed a sin directly or something. This is all fucking, just real loosey goosey. But
this is what the whole show's been building up to. This we made a point of, we're going to find out the justification and meaning behind this, and I don't know what this scene is supposed to do. Is it supposed to humanize Tom?
Right, but in like 2 scenes before, he just murdered someone in cold blood, so he can't be that.
This is what I don't get it.
It is one of the biggest problems with this show is that the characters are so inconsistent. Yeah, that I don't know. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about Tom.
I still don't know, because even what he does coming up doesn't redeem him in any way, shape, or form at all.
And by the way, by redeeming, this all happens in like 2 seconds, where we come out of this flashback, and he just and the executioner finally is just like, all right, I guess, and just lets Sarah go. Yeah. And then, like you said, Tom gets loose. He doesn't fight or anything. He just climbs up on this platform, and he's like, I did it all for you, Sarah. And then belly flops onto this saw, which is a fun effect.
I did it all for the nookie.
The nookie. So you can take this cookie, Sarah. but and there's this explosion of blood and stuff, and then cut immediately to Sarah being wheeled into the hospital.
Yep.
And Dylan shows up, but Cam's like, stay away. You could be the killer. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
And
Well, she says even like Dylan tries to speak to her, and she basically tells him about fuck off.
yeah, she's still a little upset. And then, all right, we've got 2 more scenes left in this stupid episode.
We have 2 more stupid fucking scenes left in this show.
So scene number 1 is Sarah waking up in the hospital with nobody around.
Yep.
So she just gets out of bed and wanders off.
Yeah, checks herself out. She goes out. It's a nice sunny day. She goes walking up the high street. She's got a big pair of fucking Caruso aviators on.
Mm-hmm.
And right in the middle of the square, Bo, just standing there, is the executioner.
Right. So
Just
she
standing.
just standing there. So she goes to the executioner, and she's only a few feet away when Cam comes in.
Whoa, out of nowhere, Cam just appears.
Yeah, he's like, Sarah, back away.
Yep.
Uh,
He's got a gun.
but it turns out like Sarah just grabs the mask and rips it off, and there's a mannequin standing
What
there.
I love about this is the attention to detail of painting
Around the eyes of the mannequin. Yeah.
It's like real dedication to the cause.
I mean, if you're gonna be dumb, be totally dumb.
She's be slasher dumb.
Yeah.
There's an envelope addressed to her.
Uh-huh.
And when
And
she opens,
there's a note inside that reads, "The righteous will rejoice when he sees the vengeance. He will wash his feet in the blood of the wicked, and men will say, surely there is a reward for the righteous. Surely there is a God who judges on earth." And Sarah looks at Cam and says, "He thinks this is over. It's not even close to being over."
she puts on the aviators and it goes, wow!
Uh-huh. Dun,
I
dun,
really
dun,
wanna
dun, dun.
know.
Yeah. Won't get fooled again. It's so dumb. And so
Well, yeah, like she does that, and I'm like, yeah, you fucking proved a formidable foe all the way through this season, Sarah. I bet the executioner is shitting his pants right now.
right. Speaking of, so we follow Cam home, and we see his father for a second because this movie.
Do they live together?
I guess
Maybe.
I don't know, Duncan. I just don't know. And his father is just like, hey, son, in a beautiful God-created morning.
So that all the sins have been washed away in this town because I still want this show to think that I'm a red herring.
Yeah, like for 2 more seconds, let's make sure that we throw some.
Yeah, because it's the
fake-
slasher rule. They set up something and they'll literally bulldoze it over 2 seconds later.
And so Cam is like, yep, whole town's been cleansed, all right.
Yeah.
And he just closes the door to his bedroom, goes to his closet, and pulls out this wooden box.
In the background, Goodbye Horses is playing
Yeah.
in my mind.
Would you open me? I'd open me. And so he opens up this box, and inside are little trophies from all
Shit
the other
trophies.
murders,
Shit trophies.
Yeah, there's
'Cause
little.
but by the way, we never found the other thing I was talking about where they just like correct things in terms of their answering questions. One of the things that they very quickly put out there was the reason Dylan was in touch with Tom was because of his website. The second thing was the justification for both the deaths of whatever her name was, Julie and Trent, was the same thing. So it was a twofer.
Yeah.
For no reason at all. Like one for all the other ones, but a twofer for that one. So just because their names were both written in the book, that closes that satisfyingly. Not. And he opens his box and he's got all this stuff. We still haven't found the cop yet. Although his badge was in the. But I don't think we will find the cop, and no one seems interested in finding the cop. But we have seen that there was an effigy for that particular sin there.
Yeah. He had a snake skin for poor Trent.
Yep.
Yeah, there's so he pulls out this bloody cloth and puts it in the box, presumably part of Tom's prison uniform.
Yeah. And then he's 2 steps away from doing the Dexter credit wink at the camera.
Right. And so at the end of this, it's just him, kind of closing the box and presumably leaving we, the audience, with the knowledge that Cam is in fact the execution.
Is leaving us with the surprising knowledge, Bo, that Cam is actually the killer.
Yeah. This is something that we talked about early on in the show.
Episode 1, I think, was when we hypothesized that Cam was most likely the killer. And here we are, a whole 6 hours later, finally getting Cam revealed as the killer.
Yes.
Fuck my life.
So, Duncan,
Bo,
do you have any predictions for next week's episode?
I predict a riot.
Will it be a Zoot Suit riot?
I think Dylan is going to step up in the most unsatisfying way for all of us, because he's not the hero that we need or want.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that this turns into a situation where Dylan kind of helps save the day. They sort of strengthen their relationship. He learns the lesson that family is more important than career. She learns the lesson that she really does love him or something, and then it'll be over.
Yeah, I think she's like, Sarah's obvious. I think Sarah's going to crack the case. She's going to work out it's Cam. I think it's just the only thing that might be a curveball is the dad might be in on it.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's the curveball, is that she'll find out, she'll go to him and say like, "Oh my God, your son is the killer," and he'll be like, "Oh, why, Sarah? He's just doing what he thinks is right for the community. He's taking care of all of us,
Yeah,
that kind of thing."
What do you call that movie again? Dead Zone review.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like he's the mother in the dead zone. Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the big reveal. I think Cam will not go quietly. I think Cam will probably die as a slasher movie after.
100%. She will kill him.
Yes.
And if the father is in on it, Dylan kills the father.
Yes. And I think she will probably leave Waterbury, and that's how we will finish the show.
Yes, it is going to be like, what do you think we can get for this house?
Yeah.
Let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah. And Detective fucking Schwarmer's in the background being choked out for shits and giggles.
Right.
I think that's it. I will be honest, Bo, 2 weeks cannot come quick enough to put this fucking thing at bed.
I'm eager to see where the series goes from here, because I've heard that the seasons are very different from one another.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious, and I hope, like, I want it to be equally stupid, but I hope that it's not as painfully stupid. Like, this is a real dumb season. The characters are just a mess and all, but yes, I agree. I'm looking forward to putting this one to bed. I don't expect too many surprises from here on out, but you never know. Like, this show is always quick to do something real dumb.
It was Brenda all along.
Yeah, like Brenda comes back from her watery grave, like Ted Danson in Creepshow.
The mayor's revealed to be Sarah's granddad. That was a story we dropped very, very quickly after building up quite a bit.
None of that matters at all.
Bullshit. Just so much bullshit in this show that means nothing to no one.
What if it turns out that like the whole town are cannibals and this is all some elaborate ruse?
Well, if they were smart, what they would have is some sort of kind of hot fuzz secret organization of people aggrieved by things that have happened in the town, and that's all feeding into it, and Cam is the figurehead who does the killing. That would be interesting. At least a kind of murder on the Orient Express sort of ending would make me kind of happy. We ain't going to get that.
No. Duncan, we will be back, speaking of, in 2 weeks' time to finish this thing off proper. In the meantime, where can people find you if they want to get more out of you?
They could check out Podcasts Under the Stairs, which can be found wherever you listen to podcasts by typing in Podcasts Under the Stairs, or you can go to the website tputscast, tputscast.com. where you will find everything I do, including a little show called Opera Omnia, where myself and Bo for season 3 are going through the collective works of one David Fincher, and we put out an episode just over a week ago looking at The Game, the third movie in the Fincher catalogue. And whilst neither one of us were particularly bowled over by a revisit to that movie, the conversation nonetheless is great. So please go across, check that one out. And yeah, I'll speak to you all in 2 weeks' time.
Great. And if you're watching this video live, join us tomorrow right here on the same bat time, same bat channel. See, like the shirt I'm wearing. Because we will be doing yet another list of legends. This time we will be counting down the definitive list of the top 20 zombie films. So that will be exciting and fun and ridiculous. So
I'm going to do the next one.
Okay. I will make
know
sure.
what it is, but you will just give me the heads up, and I will do the next one.
Okay.
I make a promise.
All right. So we will be here at 1 p.m. Eastern time, 12 Central time tomorrow during the day to do that list. And check out everything on legionpodcasts.com. There's all kinds of new and fun stuff over there, including shows like the Mystery Vault podcast that does like weird and strange history stuff. Just did an episode on crop circles and the Philadelphia experiment, explaining what the hell happened with all that. And yeah, I felt smarter on the back end of those. As well as the Dread Familiar, which was a new audio drama podcast as well. So lots of fun stuff over there. Check that out. Thanks for listening to this program. Be sure you are subscribing to the video channel so you can be with us live. And for those of you who have been joining us live and leaving questions and comments and whatnot in the chat, thank you very, very much for being with us. It's a whole lot of fun to do it in this format. And for those of you listening elsewhere on the audio only feed, hey, thanks for listening to it. Be sure you're subscribing to the show and all of the stuff that Duncan is doing. So with that, there is only one thing left to do to properly end the program around here, and that is to say to my good friend and companion, say goodnight, Duncan.
My good friend and companion, say goodnight, Duncan.
Ah! All right. We'll see you later, everybody.